Good morning, pro-life family. My name's Julie Burrish. I was asked to speak at the Capitol today for the March for Life, but the weather didn't cooperate. So I thought I would upload this and share with you my talk and testimony anyway. The hope is to motivate you as the soldiers for life. Important to share here is the depth of blindness that abortion causes, and I'm going to talk about that as well. We can't be silent anymore. Our silence is costing these children their very lives. I hope this talk can help and encourage you to never give up. This is my story. To begin with, my nursing experience was as clinic manager at Planned Parenthood. Why did I even work there? Because I was desperate for a day job. My then husband was a lawyer who worked the day shift, and I was a cardiac nurse working the evening shift, which was hard on a new marriage because we never saw each other. The day of the interview for Planned Parenthood, they went ahead and hired me knowing that I was Catholic. I told them in the interview I didn't believe in abortion, but this is an example of their lies. They told me I'd be preventing abortions, thus saving people from them. They said, well, we don't do those here. They swore they have nothing to do with abortion. However, their Hayes clinic, I learned, did abortions, and I found this out later. They claimed they helped families plan for their children and thus eliminate unwanted children. They would never allow me to do any pregnancy counseling. Only the counselor there was allowed to do this. I didn't understand this because I was a nurse, but this was forbidden. One day I was shocked when a lady was exiting. The receptionist hollered at her. She says, "Don't forget your coupon." It was a coupon for Tillers for an abortion. I was blown away. I had no idea they were giving out tickets and coupons for abortions. So it was a direct link to abortions. One day the head manager lady took me to Tillers. I did not want to go there. I told her that I wasn't really interested in going there, but she said I must meet him. When I was introduced to him, he asked if I wanted to see an abortion. I said no. Then he began to boast about his abortions. He said he was the only doctor in the area or in the region that used sonograms to do his abortions. That way, he would make sure that he got it all. This clinic at Planned Parenthood was a massive birth control mill. Mostly, Planned Parenthood was giving birth control to young girls. To me, they looked, most of them, underage. Birth control pills mainly, some treatment for transmitted diseases, sexually transmitted diseases, but in a few IUDs. They were required to do pap smears on the regular refillers for every year, but disgusting as it is, in the very front lobby right next to the door, they had a big fishbowl filled with brightly colored condoms so that they could take them out with them, like giving candy to a child. They treated lots of VD as well, and on Fridays after work, they'd go to the lounge and drink beer and in the break room and make fun of all the clients. The day that all you-know-what broke loose was the day I showed up to work and the place was utterly panicked. They were yelling at each other, scrambling. They were hollering that the mayor was on the phone and saying, "What do I tell them?" I asked the receptionist what was going on. She said, a trash bag full of aborted babies was found dumped at the animal shelter. I didn't understand this. I told her, I said, "What's that got to do with us? I thought you told me all of us have nothing to do with abortions at this clinic." They just stared at me like I had two heads. Years later, I saw the pamphlet of the babies that were found that day in that dumpster. It was on a pro-life flyer, and I was blown away when I saw it because they were fully formed babies. They were beautiful, and they were perfect. They were mangled, dismembered, and disemboweled. They were murdered. I mean, when I saw that picture, I then knew, in my fog at Planned Parenthood at the time, but how real this was and how directly connected I had been the whole time. I'm going to show you what was found the day that all panic broke loose at Planned Parenthood when I was there. These are graphic images, so if you have small children or someone who would be adversely affected by graphic images of babies that are no longer alive, then you need to shield their eyes now. For those of you to take a look at this and see that these are fully term babies, ready to give birth, but they were aborted late term in their last stages of pregnancy. I'm going to remove my hand now, and you'll get to see what was discarded at the trash dumps and found in garbage bags at the Humane Society that day. These are the children, or one of them, that was found. Here's another one, right there below the incinerator. The person was a janitor that found it and opened up the blue pads where the baby was found. So you can see how devastated I was when I saw the actual photos of what I was a part of. The other thing weird about Planned Parenthood was that they glorified Margaret Sanger. Of course, I'd never heard of the woman. I had no idea who she was. I could care less. But in the back of the clinic, in one of the storerooms, they had an area that was like a shrine built to her. They talked about her like she was a saint who should be glorified and honored. And I asked them why. They said, well, she's the founder of Planned Parenthood. I had no idea what she stood for. Later, I learned that Margaret Sanger's horrific genocide and how she called people of color human weeds and how they should be exterminated. How Planned Parenthood clinics were strategically placed in neighborhoods of color, poverty, of lower class people. It was her insight and her plan deliberately to exterminate that population of people. Spying. They told me I was next in line for a spying assignment one day. This would be on a Saturday. They wanted me to attend a pro-life convention at Century 2. I told them it's my day off. I have plans with my husband. I'm not going. And they said, too bad. It was my turn and I had to do this. And I was supposed to pretend that I was a pro-lifer, find out what all kinds of lies they're spreading there at this convention, and telling the public so that they could use it against them. And I was the assigned spy. They did warn me, however. Whatever I did, I was not to look at any of the videos, the pro-life videos about graphic abortion. Well, I was not to look at the pamphlets, and I was not to see the videos, and I was not to look at the gory pictures. They were adamant about this. The reason is they didn't want me to see the truth. Well, their spying assignment backfired because I browsed around, but I was stunned how friendly and kind these people were. I could actually feel love and positive energy from these people. I actually found myself liking them. This was completely foreign to me in the environment that I had been in at Planned Parenthood. Because those people in the pro-abortion movement and Planned Parenthood, they were always a bitter people. They were negative. They were divided all the time. And they always seemed to be at each other's throats or in the attack mode at someone or something. They were arrogant. You had to fit in with them. It was a clique. And if you didn't, you were stupid. So this was very wholesome and welcoming to me, and I liked it. Well, the problem with this spy job was I couldn't find anything that they were doing wrong. I looked and looked. But finally I found a pamphlet which told women that if they breastfed, they couldn't get pregnant. I figured that was it. The Planned Parenthood snobs would be so proud of me. I took the pamphlet and I gave it to them when I had to report in on what I found. Eventually, I was fired from the place. The nurse I had replaced when I was hired had been on maternity leave, and so now she was all ready to come back to work, and it was clear that I was not really fitting in. They had to find a way to get rid of me. So one day, the nurse practitioner that was there, she accused me of mixing up blood samples and not labeling them. I did not mix them up. I knew exactly what was there and what the situation was, and I had a very deliberate plan to get that to her first thing in the morning with a full explanation. But she accused me of doing that 2 other times, which I denied. At the time I was devastated, but eventually I learned it was God rescuing me from the flames of hell. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. The next abortion experience I had was when I worked in surgery at Wesley Medical Center. They forced us all to do abortions, or maybe the ignorant ones like me. They'd trick us by sending us into a room and not telling us that an abortion was going on, but we were expected to scrub in. And when we turn around, we see that we were already in the middle of this procedure. The first one I saw, I didn't understand it or what was going on, really. We didn't have to count the baby parts like they showed in the movie Unplanned. We knew that it had taken place, but we are not the ones who had to do that. The babies that were aborted were sent to the pathology lab for someone else to do. But I will never forget the sound of that suction machine. It was terrible. We did label the specimens that came out products of conception, just like Abby Johnson was talking about. I did tell them I did not feel comfortable participating in any way and I would not do them. Well, they got mad at me and they threatened to fire me. The next rattling experience in the surgery room was an ectopic pregnancy one day. They clamped it off. They handed me a fully formed, kicking baby swirling in the sack. And it was about 10 to 12 weeks gestation, just about the time when a woman finds out that she's pregnant. My question was, what happened to this clump of cells that Planned Parenthood tells everyone, and me too, and they swore that that's all they were removing whenever someone had an abortion. The sack was hanging from a large clamp, which I was to put on the back, a bowl on the back table. I literally looked, and I looked hard. I saw this baby screaming. Yes, its little mouth was opening and closing, and it was swirling, and like it was swimming, and it was crying for its mother. All I could do was cry. I didn't remember or think how to baptize. I was just so blown away by the experience. I felt completely numb, inept, and I was silenced and dumbfounded. I had forgotten how to pray. That woke me up to how lukewarm I had become, and that's why I was standing in that position right then. All I knew was I was holding a human life in my hand and in that bowl. And all I could say to God was, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Lord. I was yelled at for looking at it, I was told to pay attention to the procedure. I watched it until it started slowing down with its swimming and swarming around, and its heart slowly stopped beating. All these things were working on me. I was confused. I knew abortion was bad, but I was so lukewarm that I didn't know how to fight it or to stop my involvement in it. I had no idea how to stand up to it. The rhetoric that they use is so forceful, and they try to get you to feel guilty if you don't fully agree with them on everything. So I just did not know how to defend and stand up to it. I was taught not to rock the boat. I was told to just do what you're told. Unfortunately, that was what I did. Later in life, I had a friend who was in a crisis pregnancy. My other roommate was pro-life, more than I was actually, and we approached her and told her that we were excited to have a baby in the house, but she insisted no, she'd made her decision. She was getting an abortion, and we were not going to talk her out of it. If I didn't go with her to get the abortion, I was not her friend, I was told. I was twisted up and torn because I didn't want this. I didn't like the position I was in, but I didn't really know what to do. I still didn't know how to stand up to it, or how to reason with anyone about it. Bullied by her demands, she forced me to go with her. We got there, and there were sidewalk counselors there. They approached us, gave us literature. They were so kind and loving. That was the thing that struck us, or me anyway. They were both holding rosaries, and they were praying. The rosaries really affected me because I used to be Catholic. They were praying rosaries for us, I thought. Well, what? These aren't the hate-filled jerks that Planned Parenthood told me to expect. And then we went inside the abortion clinic, which at that time was the crypt. True to the Planned Parenthood advice that they hammered into my head, they said, whatever you do, do not look at the pamphlets. Don't look at the literature that they hand you. I tossed it into the trash, but I felt guilty for throwing it away. I kept thinking, those people were so kind. They had love in their eyes. They cared about us. What are we doing here? Had I not been numbed out by the whole abortion movement's rhetoric and pressure and training to reject anything other than their opinion and their verbiage and the way they think, I would have picked up those pamphlets, and who knows what would have happened. I really wish I would have. After the abortion, of all things, during the procedure, my friend had told me, during the procedure, the radio was blaring, and it was playing the song that was their song. Her and the father of the baby, that was their love song. It ripped her heart. I knew it did. I could see the pain in her. And she was left there, and I was left there feeling like the biggest failure on the planet. What had I done? What had I participated in? What did I bring her to? I was tormented by all of these things for many years. When I realized how messed up that my life was, and the wrongs I had done, all I wanted to do was go to confession. I wanted to be lifted from this pit of darkness and sorrow and regret. But I was too far away from the church. I didn't know how to go to confession anymore. I knew that they had confession in the Catholic Church, and I was drawn to it. I wanted it. I needed it. So I knew of a powerful saint who was known for powerful confessions, Saint Padre Pio. I was at home by myself. All of this was overwhelming me at the time. No one was home. I started praying. I started to tell Jesus my sins. I started to cry, then sob. I was asking this saint, if he was somewhere up in the clouds up there, if he could be my confessor and listen to me and get me through this. And all I could do was call out to Jesus and sob. And then I literally wailed. I was so glad no one was there. Jesus was pulling it all out of me. The guilt, the dark, ugly sin, the presence of evil that I had allowed to control me and make terrible life mistakes. I sobbed alone for hours. Jesus taught me so much that afternoon. I was so thankful to Mother Mary and St. Pio, Padre Pio, for helping me to have the nerve to even approach the Lord with my sins, because before then I did not have that courage. I was unable to do it on my own. Anyone who's participated in abortion and been a part of the abortion industry can tell you, when you're being pulled from the fires of hell, there is a sense that our sins are so horrible that God could never forgive me. I truly understand how Abby Johnson felt. There's such a void in your soul, and you only want Jesus to fill it, and he does. After I calmed down, I was able to make a good confession, and I cannot tell you the relief, the freeing, the liberation that came from that confession. To hear the words in my ears spoken to me that said, "Go, you have been freed from your sins." There are few words more powerful to a sinner than those. Well, then I had to rebuild my life. I picked up the pieces and I looked at what birth control and abortion had done to my life and what those lies of Planned Parenthood had done to me and the lives around me. Abby Johnson is a miracle story. I so connected to her on so many levels in the movie that she expressed. The joking about the pieces of children. Although I never had to count pieces of children, I knew that the abortion clinics did have to do that, and it sickened me. The medical and technical environment that you're in at the time can easily trivialize and dehumanize the most sacred part of human life. I've done it myself. I was there. There's nothing more shameful once the soul wakes up to the horror when they see it, when they look in the mirror and see it. I myself have suffered the darkness of soul that Abby did, and I understand it. What reached her in the movie and reached me was the love of the pro-life servants, the mercy and the non-judgment, the prayers, the holy grace, the power of truth, above all, and the facts about her and her baby. Never understand this. Please, the truth has power. The constant reminding of the value of a human baby and the sacredness of their life. You may not save every baby or mom from the biggest mistake of her life. But if you have stood there, you've stood there in the gap, you've tried to reach to her, to extend that love to her. She may not feel the magnitude of it right at that moment, but love has a mysterious way of growing. That is the impression, that love you have left it with her. It will work on her like it worked on me. I stand before you now because your love, when you stood at the gates, and all your actions in defense of truth, it reached me. Even though I was an arrogant, calloused, confused person, rejecting you, it still reached me by the grace of God. This is the powerful reason that we can never, ever condemn or judge someone who's had an abortion. These women have been so abandoned, forgotten. There's no one to rescue them from the depths of hell of what that abortion has done to them and their baby. But more importantly, to their soul. It is truly felt. A darkness so deep, so oppressive, that these are the people on this earth we must cover with compassion and mercy, and most of all, love. Their soul is so numb and lost, they cannot even find it. Their need for love is great, but they just don't know it. Please never judge a woman who's had an abortion, or even one who's there to get one. We don't know the circumstances that drove her there, the desperation, the sadness, the angst, and the anguish. The only reason often they seek one is because they're alone, desperate. Someone was pressuring them, making them feel worthless, so that she should lower herself to killing her own child and to destroy her own motherhood. Often, post-abortive women are kicked to the curb after the procedure. The abortion industry denies that it causes a shred of pathological impact, but I'll tell you, these women endure depression, substance abuse, suicidal tendencies, promiscuity, you name it. They are tormented and plagued by all of these struggles. They cannot forgive themselves for what they've done. Did you ever read about the post-abortive woman who tried to scream herself to death? That is the depth of shame that none of us could know unless they've been through it. We must be Christ to them. We must forgive, reach out, and help them to find healing. So please, never condemn a post-abortive woman. She's endured more suffering than most of us could ever encounter. It's the silent killer. They may not sense or feel it right away, but eventually they usually will wake up and come to see how the sorrow that lies within them. And we have to help them find that healing. You see, abortion doesn't only kill the baby, it also kills the mother and her motherhood. So, understanding the pro-abortion mindset is that they're spiritually and essentially blind and part dead. They have lost the ability to see and to know the truth. They are walking cripples. I was a walking cripple. They are sometimes filled with hate, not always, but definitely a truth-rejecting property which has a strong grip upon them. They are numb people. They're not happy people, usually. They do not possess true joy, and that's a fact. They think they do, but they don't. They're very empty inside. They just don't know it. They try to numb up and tell themselves that they're the self-righteous one and the Christians and pro-life people are stupid and judging. They try to build a wall around themselves, and they try not to let anyone in. But please try to look at this in a spiritual way. Can you imagine the pitiful loneliness of this disposition? It's all rooted in lies. They're being controlled by lies. When you pray for them, pray against the lies. Pray for them to receive love, to have that opening in their heart to just receive it. The love that you have inside that you're giving them. Pray for that open door. Pray for their ability to see truth and for the glorious mystery that it is. Truth is a sword. It will hurt them to see it. That's oftentimes why they reject it and resist it. But this is the other reason why they try to protect themselves. The truth will make them face the humiliation that they are wrong. They are too prideful to think that they are wrong. And if they knew the depth of evil they are brokering, can you imagine the shame, the horror? It's a multidimensional thing, and this is why it's like peeling an onion. It takes time for the layers of numbness to come off. So you do have to be very patient with them. And that's how I was, and that's the best I can explain how it went for me. So do not give up. Keep witnessing, presenting the truth that you have in your heart. They're touched by this love. And that is why Abby ran to them when she started to see the truth. She knew they would help her, and they did. Truth set her free, and it will set them free too when you persist and not give up. I will tell you too that pro-abortion people are very hard to confront. They're hard to pray for. They're hard to love, actually, because they are dripping in blood guilt. They reject and they spew hate sometimes. But scientific proof is the first line of defense with them oftentimes. The pictures. They can't deny the butchered remains of a baby, that it's a human death. But the love and prayer must go with this. Never be afraid to go ahead with the truth and share the truth and stand behind it and take that step forward to present it. I want to tell you all that you have been commissioned by the Most High to be a pro-life person, to stand up and to march for life. You are very powerful, loving people. It was you who pulled me from hell and gave me the heavenly vision that a human life is glorious. You can give that to everyone. This message is so basic, but so magnificent. There's no one like a soldier for life. I know you all feel this. It burns in your heart, like it burns in my heart. We were all anointed to do this job, to be the truth tellers, to witness the most basic, the most serious, and the most important work of history. We absolutely cannot fail in this mission. to bring forth the gospel of life in these days of great darkness. We feel a kindred connection, that the mystery of what we share, and we cannot describe it, but it's there. It's a way of life. We must be the teachers. We must set the example. We must be teachers to all, that no one must remain silent about the value of life, ever, and that these babies must be saved. The souls of mothers and fathers must be saved too. We don't have all the answers. We know that not every pregnancy is, some of them are the most devastating situations as to how they got pregnant. But Jesus does. He's there with them, and he knows that we can reach out to them. And once the truth starts to unfold its own power upon a human life, answers will always come. We must always encourage them and help them to find the resources that they need. We have this community to build, to share, to help one another in this terrible and great battle for life. Let us proclaim victory and go forth boldly. This is not a mission that we chose. This is a mission that we were sent here to do from all eternity. We were sent to this age, in this century, in this time, in this generation, to be that voice for the voiceless, to march for those who cannot march. Go onward, emblazoned with the truth, my friends, and emblazoned with the mission, the purpose that God Almighty has ordained you to carry. Be not afraid. March for life and for love. I also want to tell you that one of the other things that we can do is to participate in prayer campaigns when they come around. God bless you all. I hope this message was encouraging to you and will inspire you to go boldly and march for life, not only at these events, but march boldly forward in your places of work, in your homes. Sit down with your kids and educate them and explain to them the importance of this truth and how they must always live it and know it and spread it to others. March boldly in your communities, in your church, in your friendship circles, in the grocery store, wherever you meet someone where you can witness and bring this powerful message of the importance and value of every life. March forward for life in every place that you go. The Lord is with us. God bless you all.